What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. And here today I'm going to discuss something that I never really thought I'd be talking about. And that is Pokémon Mystery Dungeon. Now, me personally, I've never played a Mystery Dungeon game before. I mean, I obviously know what it is and what it's all about, and I've had a friend's copy in my hand for a couple of minutes, but I've never played all the way through one, so I couldn't really tell you what the series meant to a lot of people. Because I know that some people are crazy about this series, but me personally, I never really got that. I never really played much of any of the side games for the Pokemon franchise, whether that's Pokemon Pinball or Pokemon Conquest or even the Mystery Dungeon series, which honestly is the biggest out of any of these side materials, but it's not that I disliked them or anything, it's sort of like those Star Wars novels that people are still mad about because they don't count anymore, even though they never counted. It never was part of the main canon, and I guess that's how I looked at these side games, so I didn't really bother with them in any meaningful way. Guess the only one that I've had personally is Pokken Tournament. But with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX on the horizon, it got me thinking about whether I should get the game or not. And I was going to, and then I wasn't, and then I did. I thought I should get it and talk about it and see what it was like and everything, and then one tepid review was all it took for me to backpedal and think, maybe I don't want to play this game. Because I downloaded the demo version, and I played that, and while that was good enough, the gameplay wasn't immediately grabbing me, and it was the same back when I was a kid. As I had said, I had played the game for a couple of minutes here or there, but it never really grabbed me to the point where I thought, I have to play this game, like the original Pokemon games did. But then I saw some people defending the game, or maybe saying, just give it a chance, and so I decided to pick it up as well. And I've been playing it this week, and while I'm not finished, necessarily, I did want to talk about what it's like for someone who's never played a Mystery Dungeon game before. Now, obviously you start the game with a quiz of sorts to let you know which Pokemon you'll be. And I answered the questions as openly and honestly as I thought I could with the options that were given me. The answers to the questions that most closely resembled the ones that I would personally pick. And, once I did, the quiz said that I was a Cubone. So, the Pokemon Company, anyway, says that I nailed the mascot choice. But I very much appreciated this quiz because it wasn't so standard that you could work it and get the answer that you wanted. It wasn't like, what's your favorite type? And what's your favorite generation? So that you could easily get the desired outcome that you wanted. You know, like those Harry Potter quizzes online where it's like, what's your favorite animal? A lion, a snake, a badger, or an eagle? It wasn't like that. It was more personal questions with what you would do in these certain scenarios, and then matched you to the Pokemon that is most similar. However, you can decide to pick a different Pokemon that you didn't get from the quiz results if that one isn't to your liking. So if you really hate Psyduck for some reason, and that's the one you got, you can pick someone else. And then, of course, there's the choice of the partner Pokemon, which is just completely open to you. You get to pick out of all of the ones that are left which one you want. And I personally picked a Trico. And that was sort of a mixed bag, but we'll get to that later. This game, in general, looks amazing. I love the art style. It's got this sort of watercolor aesthetic. The back says, a beautiful Pokemon world awaits, and boy is that true. The Pokemon themselves look good, the environments look good. The whole town, you come across this Pokemon town with banks and stores and other things, and it looks great. And the Pelipper post office, obviously. But my main fear of this game, and why I almost didn't get it at all, was the gameplay, and the fact that I thought that it would be just so repetitive and a grind and a horrible, horrible way to just spend hours. But honestly, it's not so bad as I feared. It ebbs and flows like most things do, but the core gameplay aspect of it isn't as repetitive as you might think. I mean, it is a Pokemon game, so there is some repetition required, obviously, but it's not a breaking point to me. part of the reasoning that it's not so bad is because it's not only that, there is a story. I knew that there were stories to these games, but I never really knew what they were, and it didn't seem like it would have enough stakes, because, I mean, you're just rescuing Pokemon from a dungeon that's, like 2 levels down. They could have walked out. I mean, there's a certain basic level of story required in anything to get me motivated. Unless it's like a board game, but even then, there's clue and other things. Regardless, the story aspects are quite interesting. You are obviously a human that has turned into a Pokemon. That much I knew without playing the games. And the whole story of it is you trying to figure out how that happened and why you're there as a Pokemon. There's some red herrings here and there. But there's also these different natural disasters that are happening, which sort of facilitate you needing to rescue Pokemon, and that makes sense to me. However, there are some things that I didn't enjoy about the gameplay, and that is, after a while, very near the beginning of the game, you become a fugitive of sorts, and you're on the run, and you can't access any of your other Pokemon. It's just you and your one partner. See, before this point, you could recruit different Pokemon in a dungeon. You didn't get to pick which ones, but they would pick you, and you could say, yes, I'll allow you to come with me. And then you would have to build camps and things for them to stay in while they weren't with you on an adventure. That's fine, that's all well and good. Well, almost all well and good. Sometimes you would run into a Pokemon and they would want to be with you, but you didn't have that camp, and you couldn't buy the camp unless you had a Wigglytuff orb, which isn't that tough because you can get those. But if you didn't have the appropriate amount of money on you in the dungeon, then you wouldn't be able to access that camp at all, and the Pokemon would just leave. Which isn't fair at all, because who takes that much money into a dungeon? We're talking about thousands of dollars here, and you're supposed to put it in the bank, right? I mean, that's the reason the bank exists. Because if you get knocked out, you'll lose that money. Well, almost. But we're getting sidetracked on our sidetrack, so let's circle back to the beginning. Anyway, while you're fugitives, you and your partner, that's it. You can't have any other Pokemon. And so I had to go all the way through several dungeons and up a volcano to fight Moltres, of all people. I'd already fought Zapdos, and after this, I fought Articuno. So if I'd have known that immediately the first 3 bosses were going to be the legendary Kanto birds, I probably wouldn't have picked a grass-type partner who's spectacularly weak to all of them. And it's especially frustrating because I had other people that I could have used. Even the Magnemite guy that joined us first thing. He would have been great to have with the birds. But what's even more dumb is that once I lost to Moltres, because obviously I only had 2 people, I was able to then rescue my team with a team of other people that were in the boxes already. They were sitting there just gaining experience, and I wasn't able to use them even though I could only use them after I had died? I don't understand. Anyway, you stop being a fugitive after a while, and that fixes that problem. So everything kind of got back on track for me. It wasn't as infuriating to go through those dungeons with less than the required amount of people. Or items, by the way. But that's another thing about this game. As far as I can tell, anyway, they have done a lot of improvements. Number 1 being what I just mentioned earlier. Once you die in a dungeon, you can rescue that team. You can take a team of other Pokemon that weren't on that mission and retrace your steps through that dungeon and get to the level where you got knocked out. And that's pretty great because it lets you recover all of the items and money that you would have otherwise lost. And you can do this for other people. It doesn't have to be on your copy. You can do it on other people's Mystery Dungeon files. I suppose you have to be friends with them or something. I don't know. I don't have Nintendo Online because it's a ripoff. But rescuing yourself, that's definitely an improvement. You can have up to 8 Pokemon in a party. Well, you can bring 3 Pokemon into a dungeon, and then you can have 5 more join you in a single dungeon. So that's pretty cool. Sometimes you'll have a whole big posse of people, and that can go one of 2 ways. You can either all surround one Pokemon and gang up on them, or you'll have to snake through tunnels, and you don't even realize that the people at the back are getting attacked until you're stopped for some reason, and by the time you get there, you would have had to revive them or heal them at some point because they're ill-equipped to handle the threat that has befallen them. Now, something that I don't understand that they didn't improve was the item storage. Now, I understand that you might say resource management is a required aspect of this game, and that you need to do it and learn how to manage these sort of things, but I don't understand why. Limited bag space hasn't been a thing since Gen 3, which, coincidentally, is when these games first premiered. So if we can do that in the main series, surely we can do it for the Mystery Dungeon series as well. It's just infuriating when you keep walking into items and you don't have enough space for them, so you have to either switch them out or quickly use up some items that you don't actually need right now, but you can heal off that 2 HP that you're missing that would have recovered itself in a couple of steps anyway, or refill your hunger meter to well past 100% even though it doesn't work that way. So if I had to say a downside of the game, it would definitely be the item space and not having enough storage and that sort of thing, but also the inconsistencies in the amount of time of battling in dungeons, because sometimes you'll have like a 5-level dungeon, and that's fine. That's cool. That's near the beginning. But then you keep getting more and more, and it's quickly out of hand, because you get up to like 20 levels of dungeons. And what's worse is that once people start asking for your help, and that you can revisit dungeons to go rescue people, get other items and things, that sort of thing, you'll only have so many per dungeon. Now you can accumulate a number and wait until then. That's what I try and do, because there's no point in going in a 15-level dungeon for 2 assignments, because they might be on vastly different floors and you'll have to traverse 8 or more floors just to get to the other guy. So I try and hoard as many help letters as I can per location so that I can make it worth my while to go back in. But then of course that means that I'm stuck with lesser areas, going and repeating them numerous times just so I can cycle through more of the help letters. Fighting the legendaries is difficult, but it's pretty cool. One thing that I would say is that they probably could have introduced something new here. I mean, I know that this is a remake of the old games, but Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were remakes and they had Meltan. So it's not that hard to think that they could have introduced some sort of other new legendary. I don't even mean brand new. It could be a Zygarde or something. Just a legendary that we've seen but hasn't been in this Mystery Dungeon game before. I think it would be really cool if you got to the end of the game and suddenly you saw a Necrozma there or something that you had to fight that you weren't at all expecting because it wasn't in the original game. They could have even had Zarude, the new Dark and Grass mythical Pokemon, since it was just announced a couple of days before the game came out. That would have been pretty cool. But they do have some new Pokemon, although it's exclusively limited to other Pokemon that are evolutions or pre-evolutions of the ones that were already in this game. And another thing is that in the main series of Pokemon, I don't nickname a Pokemon at all. I just never do. I don't like to do it. Number one, because I want to learn their names in a new generation and that sort of thing. But in this Mystery Dungeon game, I've nicknamed all the Pokemon that I've come across. Well, all the new ones anyway. If there's like a repeat Shroomish, I'm not going to nickname it too. But I'm not really sure why. I think a big reason for it is the ease with which you can change nicknames. You can just go in at any time and change their nickname in this game. So if you're not satisfied with it or you misspell something without knowing it, you can easily change it on the spot. I don't understand why that's not a feature in the main series games. If we can do that here, I'm pretty sure we can make that a thing in other games. Is it because of the battling aspect, where you can instantly hook up with anyone in the world and battle? I don't see how that could be any different than this. I mean, we can keep it to where the name is unchangeable once you trade it, but if the main person still has it, you should be able to change the nickname with ease. I know there's a name relearner or whatever it's called, I don't care. I don't nickname things, but it needs to be as easy as Mystery Dungeon has made it, because then I might consider nicknaming some Pokemon once in a while. Actually, probably not, since some of them weren't very great nicknames. They were just kind of the first thing that I thought of. Like Absol was Shatter, or just general descriptors like Apathy, the Slack-Off. And then some of them were also just mildly insulting, like Waitstaff, the Illumise. I don't know if I just understood what I was supposed to be doing more, or I understood more of it from a narrative perspective with all the backstory that was given, but the repetitive gameplay really didn't seem that bad. I mean, you can look at the mini-map and just go for the items and avoid certain enemies if you want, or conversely, if you want to fight all the enemies you can, which is necessary sometimes to gain experience, then you can do that too. And I gotta say, it was pretty fun to collect and build up a team of other Pokemon. I mean, that's the main tenet of the regular Pokemon franchise, so it stands to reason that it would be good here too. It's not really in your control, but once you have those Pokemon, it's fun to try and mix and match and see which ones work well together. One of the downsides is that it's not exactly easy to level up Pokemon to get them up to where everyone else is. So if you get a new Pokemon that you really want to use, but it's kind of low level, then it's hard to bring it up to where everyone else is. All of the Pokemon that you could conceivably use on a team gain experience through every mission. So even though they're just sitting there in their camps, which is essentially a PC of sorts, they still get experience, meaning as much as you train up that one out in the field, all of the other ones will still be stronger than it. But another great thing about the way that you can gain Pokemon for your team is that, through the main story of the game anyway, Pokemon don't evolve. Meaning that if you get a Zigzagoon, it's gonna stay a Zigzagoon for quite a while. But you can also get a Linoon. So it's not exactly useless to get the later evolutions of Pokemon, since you can't go, they'll just turn into that later. So I got a Snorunt at one point, and then I also got a Glalie, which was extremely useful. And they can fulfill different roles on the team if you so desire. So basically, what do I have to say about Mystery Dungeon? Well, surprisingly, I didn't think I would like this. I kind of went into it hoping not to like it. I can't tell you why, I just didn't think it would be that good. Can I recommend it to everybody? Probably not. It's up to individual taste as to whether or not you'll like this game. All I can say is that I was highly skeptical and pretty much primed not to like this game, and I actually ended up enjoying quite a bit of it. Again, I'm not exactly finished, but I'm getting there. And the Mystery Dungeon series itself is at an interesting place, since the first few iterations had over 5 million copies sold apiece. But it went significantly down in more recent titles, including Super Mystery Dungeon, which I heard about but didn't really bother with. I remember when Super Mystery Dungeon came out and people were kind of mad because they were saying, "This is the only Pokemon game we're gonna get this year?" Because it was between Gen 6 and Gen 7. But if that were the case for this game, I don't know if I would even be mad. Although I will say that it seems a little cramped right now, because Sword and Shield just came out in November, and June will start the expansion pass for the Galar region as well. So sticking it in between those kind of cuts off the legs of this Mystery Dungeon remake. I think it might have gone over better if it had been in the same year as Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It could have been like the sort of year of the Pokemon remakes, as we sort of say goodbye to all of the old classics that we love with these remakes, but also a new hello, with both of them being on the new Switch. But that didn't happen. They obviously weren't ready with this game at that time, but we have it now. And I do think that this will sell better than the last version of the game in the series, because it seems like the Switch has a very healthy life at the moment, and it seems like people are more open to buying games that they wouldn't have otherwise. Take me, for instance. I've already bought several games that I never would have during the Wii era, and that's more of a personal quirk than anything. I sort of don't like to buy video games unless I know I'll like them, which is counterintuitive, I know. How can you know you're gonna like it if you don't buy it? But that's the same thing that I ran into with this game. I didn't think I was gonna like it, so I almost didn't buy it. In fact, I didn't buy it for several days. But I was actually quite surprised by Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. And I'm gonna be more open to Pokémon spin-offs in the future. So, when are we getting that Pokémon Ranger remake? What are your thoughts on Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX? Have you bought it? Are you avoiding it like I was going to? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Also, be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!